The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council chamber sparkled under 3 artificial suns. Around the circular table sat representatives from 50 different species, all focused on the holographic display floating in the center. The image showed a blue-green planet, spinning slowly in space. "This world has claimed another exploration vessel," announced lead council member Tom, his gray skin reflecting the hologram's light. "That makes it the 15th ship lost in the past solar cycle." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The planet's reputation had grown steadily worse over the past decade. Every attempt to study it had ended in disaster. "The readings are unlike anything we've seen," continued Tom, manipulating the hologram to show various data streams. "The planet experiences extreme temperature shifts, powerful storms, and hosts countless species that our scientists classify as apex predators. The gravity is crushing by most standards. The atmosphere contains highly reactive oxygen. The oceans are filled with corrosive salt water." The alien representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Most of them came from carefully controlled worlds where such conditions would be unthinkable. "We must classify it as a level 13 death world," suggested one of the council members. "No further exploration should be attempted. The risk is too great." Just then, the chamber doors slid open. A tall figure walked in, moving with a confidence that caught everyone's attention. Admiral James of the Human Expeditionary Force had arrived late, as usual. "I couldn't help but overhear," he said, taking his seat. "Another ship lost to the mystery planet." Tom nodded gravely. "The conditions are impossible. No intelligent life could evolve there. It's a death trap." Admiral James leaned forward, studying the hologram with unusual interest. "Those readings, they seem familiar. May I see the atmospheric composition?" Tom adjusted the display. Numbers and chemical formulas floated in the air. James's eyes widened slightly, but he kept his expression neutral. "The Human Expeditionary Force volunteers to investigate this planet." The chamber erupted in protests. "Impossible. Suicide mission. We cannot allow it." Tom raised his hand for silence. "Admiral James, your species is new to space travel. You've only been part of the Council for 5 years. This planet has destroyed our best ships, crewed by species with centuries of space exploration experience." James simply smiled. "All the more reason to let us try. We're expendable, aren't we? That's what some of you think." He let the words hang in the air. "Besides, our ships are differently designed. We might spot something you missed." The council members exchanged glances. It was true. Human ships were oddly robust by their standards, built to withstand conditions that most species would never dream of encountering. "Very well," Tom said finally, "but we must register our strongest warning. No species has ever returned from that world. The conditions are simply too extreme." "Noted," James replied, already standing to leave. "We'll prepare an expedition immediately." As he walked out, one council member turned to another and whispered, "Those humans are either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish." "Perhaps both," came the response. "But did you notice how the Admiral smiled when he saw the planet's data? Almost like he recognized something." Tom watched the doors close behind James, then turned back to the hologram. The beautiful blue-green world continued its slow rotation, deceptively peaceful looking from space. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something obvious about both the planet and their newest council members. "Meeting adjourned," he announced. "May whatever gods you believe in have mercy on those humans. They'll need it when they face the most dangerous planet in the galaxy." As the council members filed out, none of them noticed Admiral James in his ship's communication room, sending an urgent message to Earth Command. "You won't believe what I just found. They've been trying to explore Earth without realizing it, and they think it's the deadliest planet they've ever seen. Request permission to proceed with investigation. This could be interesting." The response came back almost immediately. "Permission granted. Try not to laugh too hard when they figure it out." Captain Smith's alien research vessel shuddered as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Warning lights flashed across every console in a cockpit. The ship wasn't designed for this kind of gravitational pull or atmospheric pressure. Systems failing. Called out First Officer Bill from his station. We need to land now. Through the viewport, they could see green landmasses and vast blue oceans through gaps in the white clouds. The ship's hull groaned under the strain of the planet's conditions. There, Smith pointed to a clearing in what appeared to be a forested area. It's our only chance. The ship dropped faster than intended, its landing systems struggling against the planet's gravity. They hit the ground hard, skidding across the grass before coming to a stop near a cluster of trees. Everyone alive? Smith asked, checking his environmental suit's seals. According to their readings, the outside atmosphere was a deadly cocktail of nitrogen and oxygen. Alive, but the ship's main drive is completely burned out, Bill reported, running diagnostics. We're stuck here until rescue arrives. The research team of 5 gathered their emergency gear and prepared to exit the ship. Their mission had been simple: observe the death world from orbit. No one had planned for an emergency landing. As they stepped onto the planet's surface, their sensors went crazy. The air was thick with oxygen, the gravity pulled at their bodies, and the temperature was far higher than comfortable for their species. How could anything survive here? Wondered Bill, looking around at the lush vegetation. The conditions are lethal. Then they saw something that made them freeze. In the distance, through the trees, they spotted structures, geometric shapes that couldn't be natural. Buildings. Impossible, whispered Smith. The council said no intelligent life could evolve here. They cautiously approached the structures, weapons ready. Their scanner showed movement inside, living creatures of some kind. The door to one of the buildings opened, and out walked a creature that made them all step back in shock. It stood on 2 legs, had no protective exoskeleton, and wore minimal covering over its soft, vulnerable skin. "Hello there," the creature called out, waving casually. "You folks look a bit lost. Need any help?" The research team stared in disbelief. The creature was speaking to them in perfect basic, the standard language of the galaxy. More importantly, it was standing in the lethal atmosphere without any protection. We've come to rescue you," Smith managed to say through his suit's communicator. "This planet is dangerous. You must evacuate immediately." The creature, apparently a local, looked confused. Then it started laughing. "Rescue us? From Earth? Why would we need rescuing from our home?" Smith's team exchanged bewildered looks. "Home? You evolved here?" "Well, yeah," the local said, still chuckling. "Been here for quite a while. Few 100,000 years, give or take. Name's Mike, by the way. Would you like to come in for coffee? Though you might want to take off those suits first. You look pretty uncomfortable." "Remove our protection," Bill asked in horror. "The atmosphere would kill us instantly." Mike scratched his head. "Oh right, you folks must be from one of those controlled environment worlds. Tell you what, let me call some people who can help. We're used to dealing with off-worlders who find our planet a bit challenging." As Mike pulled out a communication device, Smith's team huddled together. "This is impossible," Smith whispered. "They're not just surviving here, they're thriving. Without any protective technology." "Captain," Bill said urgently, checking his scanner. "I just realized something. The readings from this planet, they match exactly with the historical records of what? The homeworld of those new council members. The humans." They all turned to look at Mike, who was finishing his call. Behind him, more locals were emerging from other buildings, all moving easily in conditions that should have been instantly fatal. "Help's on the way," Mike announced cheerfully. "Welcome to Earth, folks. Don't worry, you're not the first aliens to crash here. And I'm sure you won't be the last." The alien research team sat nervously in Mike's living room, still wearing their protective suits. They watched in horror as their host casually interacted with what their scanners identified as an apex predator. "This is Max, my dog," Mike said, scratching behind the creature's ears. The beast, with its sharp teeth and powerful jaw, responded by wagging its tail and licking Mike's face. "You keep predators as companions?" Smith asked, his voice shaking. "Dogs. They've been with us for thousands of years," Mike replied. "Most families have one. Some have cats too, but Max here isn't fond of them." Just then, Mike's wife Jane walked in carrying a tray. "I brought some snacks. I wasn't sure what you could eat through those suits, but I made coffee and cookies anyway." The aliens watched in fascination as the humans consumed the brown liquid and small brown discs. Their scanners went wild at the chemical compositions. "That beverage," Bill pointed at the coffee, "contains high levels of caffeine. It's a toxic substance." "Oh yeah," Mike laughed, taking another sip. "Can't start my morning without it. Want to see something really wild?" He reached for a small red object on the tray. "This is a hot pepper. Lots of humans love spicy food." The alien sensors nearly overloaded when Mike bit into the pepper. The chemical readings were off the charts. "You're willingly consuming a substance that causes pain?" Smith asked incredulously. "It's not that hot," Jane said, taking a bite of her own pepper. "You should see the really spicy ones at the hot sauce festival downtown." Through the window, the aliens observed more humans going about their daily lives. A group jogged past in the scorching sun. Children played in the dangerous gravity. Someone walked by with another predator, this one even larger than Max. "Your species," Smith began carefully, "seems to have unusual resistances." "We're pretty adaptable," Mike agreed. "Had to be, growing up here. Earth throws all sorts of things at you. Earthquakes, storms, volcanoes. Speaking of which, did you hear about Tom going volcano surfing last weekend?" Volcano surfing. Bill's translator seemed to glitch on the concept. "Yeah, it's this crazy new sport. They ride special boards down the ash slopes of active volcanoes. Not my thing, but some folks love it." The research team's notes were becoming increasingly bizarre. They watched as Jane picked up a small insect that had wandered into the house, using her bare hands to place it outside instead of following standard decontamination protocols. "Don't you fear the indigenous life forms?" Smith finally asked. Mike thought for a moment. "Well, you have to be careful with some things. Don't pet strange dogs without asking. Check your shoes for spiders in Australia. That sort of stuff. But mostly we get along fine with other Earth species. We're kind of at the top of the food chain here." "And the extreme weather conditions?" Bill inquired, noting the approaching storm clouds through the window. "Oh, that's just a spring shower coming in," Jane said casually. "Though we might get some thunder and lightning. Max doesn't like those much, do you, boy?" The dog whimpered slightly and moved closer to Mike's legs. "Lightning?" Smith's suit sensors were registering massive electrical discharges in the atmosphere. "You remain outside during electrical storms." "Well, we come inside if it's really bad," Mike shrugged. "But a little rain never hurt anyone. Want to watch? The lightning can be pretty beautiful." The aliens huddled together as the humans and their predator companion moved to the porch to watch the storm. Massive bolts of electricity split the sky, followed by thunderous booms that shook the house's foundation. Mike and Jane sat in rocking chairs, sipping their toxic beverages, apparently enjoying the display of raw natural power. "Captain," Bill whispered to Smith, "I think we need to seriously revise our understanding of what constitutes a death world." Smith nodded slowly, watching as Mike threw a stick for Max to chase in the rain. "And perhaps our understanding of what makes a species dangerous as well." In the Galactic Council's emergency session, Admiral James stood calmly before the agitated representatives, a slight smile playing on his face. Behind him, a holographic display showed footage from Captain Smith's research team on Earth. "As you can see," James said, gesturing to the images of humans going about their daily lives, "what you've classified as the most dangerous planet in the galaxy is actually quite pleasant. For us." "Pleasant?" Tom sputtered, his gray skin turning slightly purple with agitation. The atmospheric pressure alone should be crushing. The oxygen levels are toxic. Only from your perspective, James replied. You've been measuring Earth's conditions against your own standards. The truth is, Earth isn't the most dangerous planet. It's just different from what you're used to. The council chamber erupted in confused discussions as new data streamed across their screens. The research team had spent a week on Earth, documenting human activities and environmental conditions. Look at this, Bill's voice came through the recording. They have settlements in virtually every environment. Deserts, tundra, rainforests, mountains. They adapt their dwellings but fundamentally remain the same. The footage showed cities in different climate zones, humans living and thriving in conditions that the council had previously deemed impossible for intelligent life. But the predators, another council member asked. Our scans showed multiple apex species. James clicked to the next image. Children at a zoo, safely watching lions behind glass. We learned to contain the truly dangerous ones. Others, like dogs and cats, we domesticated, made them our companions. Domesticated apex predators. The concept seemed to physically pain some of the representatives. We've been studying Earth all wrong. Smith's voice came through the recording. We thought it was a death world because we couldn't survive there. But humans, they don't just survive. They thrive on challenge. The display showed extreme sports, skydiving, deep-sea diving, mountain climbing. The council members watched in horrified fascination as humans deliberately sought out dangerous situations for recreation. Our initial assessment was incorrect, James continued. Earth isn't unusually dangerous. Rather, its varied conditions created a species capable of adapting to almost anything. We humans evolved to be generalists, able to survive and prosper in a wide range of environments. Tom leaned forward. You mean to tell us that all this time, while we were warning ships away from this death world, it was simply our home, James finished. Yes, and those 15 ships you lost. We found them all. They crashed because they weren't designed for Earth conditions. We've been repairing them in our orbital stations. The footage shifted to show massive space docks where the missing ships were being restored. Human engineers worked alongside rescued alien crews, teaching them how to modify their vessels for Earth's environment. But this changes everything, one council member said. If humans evolved in such conditions, then we're naturally equipped to handle environments that most species find challenging. James nodded. That's why our ships are different. Why our exploration teams can go places others can't. We're not superhuman. We're just built for versatility. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The most feared planet in the galaxy wasn't a death trap. It was a crucible that had forged one of the most adaptable species they'd ever encountered. We would like to propose a new classification for Earth, James said into the silence. Not as a death world, but as a graduate school for the galaxy. Under proper human guidance, other species can learn to handle conditions they never thought possible. Tom looked around at his fellow council members, then back at James. You knew all along, didn't you, when you volunteered to investigate? James smiled. Let's just say it's not every day you hear your homeworld described as the most dangerous planet in the galaxy. We figured it was time to clear up the misunderstanding. As the council began discussing the implications of this revelation, James's communicator buzzed with a message from Earth. How did they take the news? He typed back quickly. About as well as expected. Wait until they find out about space swimming. General Rick stood before the assembled alien military leaders in the Galactic Defense Force headquarters. The massive screen behind him displayed combat training footage from Earth's various military forces. As you can see, Rick explained, pointing to soldiers running through a jungle terrain, human military training begins with the basics, adapting to any environment. The alien commanders watched intently as the footage showed troops moving through deserts, swimming across rivers, scaling mountains, and operating in Arctic conditions, all without environmental suits or special equipment. Impossible, muttered Commander Alex of the Stellar Forces. "Your troops function in all these conditions without protection. We call it all-terrain capability," Rick replied. "Every human soldier is trained to fight in any environment. It's not just about survival. It's about maintaining combat effectiveness." The next sequence showed human special forces conducting underwater operations. "You willingly submerge in liquid?" another commander asked, his tentacles twitching nervously. "We have entire military branches dedicated to ocean operations," Rick explained. "Our naval forces can fight above, on, and below the water surface." The alien commanders exchanged worried glances. Their own troops required extensive protective gear for such operations, making them slow and vulnerable. "But surely your soldiers have limitations," Commander Alex pressed. "The energy expenditure must be enormous." Rick clicked to the next footage. Soldiers on extended patrol carrying heavy packs. "Human bodies are built for endurance. We can keep moving long after most species would need rest. We call it persistence hunting. It's how our ancestors caught prey." "You hunted by exhausting your targets." The concept seemed to disturb several commanders. "Still do, in military operations," Rick nodded. "We can pursue targets for days if necessary. Most species eventually need to stop. We just keep coming." The screen showed night operations next. Human soldiers moving efficiently in darkness, using their natural ability to see in low light combined with basic technology. "Your troops function without perfect visibility?" another commander asked. "We adapt to conditions rather than trying to control them," Rick explained. "It's more efficient than requiring perfect conditions for operation." One of the younger commanders raised a hand. "We've analyzed your weapons. They're primitive compared to ours." Rick smiled. "True, but watch this." The screen showed soldiers continuing to fight after their advanced weapons malfunctioned, switching to simpler backup weapons, then to hand-to-hand combat. "Human soldiers never stop fighting just because their technology fails," Rick continued. "We train for every scenario, including worst-case situations. Technology is a tool, not a crutch." The footage shifted to show human military bases in space, on other planets, and in various harsh environments. "This is why we've been so successful in the Galactic Defense Force," Rick explained. "Human adaptability means we can operate anywhere, anytime. We don't need perfect conditions or specialized equipment to be effective." Commander Alex stood up. "I begin to understand why the Council was so concerned about Earth. You're not just survivors, you're natural warriors." "We prefer to think of ourselves as protectors," Rick corrected gently. "Our adaptability means we can defend others who might struggle in harsh conditions. That's why we're here, offering to train your forces." The alien commanders murmured among themselves. The revelation about Earth being the supposed death world had sparked concern about human military potential. But Rick's presentation suggested something even more significant. Humans weren't just dangerous, they were invaluable allies. "We propose joint training programs," Rick concluded. "Your troops have technology and tactical knowledge we can learn from. In return, we can teach you how to function without perfect conditions, how to adapt and overcome instead of requiring ideal circumstances." As the commanders filed out to discuss the proposal, Commander Alex lingered behind. "One question, General," he said quietly. "If your soldiers are this adaptable in regular conditions, how dangerous are we when we really want to be?" Rick finished. "Let's hope we never have to find out. We'd much rather be teaching other species how to survive than showing them why Earth was considered so dangerous." The implied message was clear. Humans weren't just survivors of a death world, they were its masters. And that made them either the galaxy's most valuable allies or its most terrifying potential enemies. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council looked very different from 1 year ago. Where there had once been fear and suspicion about Earth, now there was curiosity and respect. Lead Council member Tom stood at the podium, addressing the assembled representatives. "Today marks a historic revision In our galactic classifications, he announced, Earth is no longer categorized as a death world. Instead, it has been reclassified as a crucible world, a planet that forges extraordinary species through its diverse challenges. Holograms displayed the new data about Earth. The warnings and danger signs have been replaced with educational markers and opportunity indicators. In the past year, Tom continued, human instructors have helped over 50 species adapt to conditions they once thought impossible. Their perspective on environmental challenges has revolutionized our approach to space exploration. Admiral James, now a senior council member, stepped forward to share the latest statistics. Our joint human-alien teams have successfully explored 12 previously impossible worlds. By applying Earth-born survival strategies, we've opened up new territories for peaceful expansion. The screen showed images of alien scientists working alongside humans in various harsh environments. Some wore modified environmental suits based on human designs, while others had learned to function with minimal protection. But perhaps most importantly, James added, we've learned that what we perceive as dangerous isn't universal. Earth didn't create warriors, it created problem solvers. A series of images showed human innovations that had been shared with the galactic community. Simplified spacesuit designs, all-terrain vehicles inspired by Earth animals, and survival techniques that worked across species. The humans have taught us something invaluable, said Commander Alex, rising from his seat. They showed us that adaptation is better than avoidance. Instead of running from challenges, they embrace them and grow stronger. The Council reviewed reports from various cultural exchange programs. Alien students were learning Earth sports, modified for their physiologies. Human cooking techniques were being adapted for different species. Even Earth's artistic expressions were finding appreciation among alien cultures. We also need to acknowledge our mistake, Tom said solemnly. We nearly classified an entire world as too dangerous to contact, based solely on our own limitations. How many other wonderful civilizations might we be missing because we're afraid of conditions different from our own? The chamber fell silent as this implication sank in. Humans hadn't just changed how the galaxy viewed Earth, they'd changed how species viewed each other. Therefore, Tom announced, we're establishing the Earth Institute for Adaptive Studies. This organization will help species learn from each other's environmental adaptations. Earth will serve as its first campus, but we hope to expand to other challenging worlds. James stepped forward again. Remember, every world that challenges us makes us stronger. Earth taught humanity this lesson, and now we can share it with the galaxy. The most dangerous thing isn't a hostile environment. It's the fear that keeps us from facing it. The council chamber erupted in applause. Even species that had once feared Earth were now eager to learn its lessons. As the session concluded, Tom approached James privately. You must be proud, he said. Your species has changed everything. James smiled. We're just getting started. Wait until they see our plans for underwater cities and volcanic research stations. Humans dream big. It's another thing Earth taught us. Any other surprises we should know about? Tom asked, half-jokingly. Well, James grinned, we're developing a galactic extreme sports league, properly safety-rated for all species, of course. Tom shook his head in amazement. A year ago, we thought Earth was the most dangerous planet in the galaxy. Now it's becoming the galaxy's greatest teacher. That's humanity for you, James replied. We don't just survive challenges. We learn from them, adapt to them, and eventually turn them into opportunities. Maybe that's the real lesson Earth teaches. It's not about how dangerous your world is, but how you choose to face those dangers. As they looked out at the stars through the council chamber's massive windows, both leaders knew the galaxy would never be the same. Earth hadn't just joined the galactic community. It had shown them a whole new way to thrive in it.